Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Rants from the Road. I'm your host, Mr. Constitution. Welcome back. I hope you all had a fantastic 4th of July celebrating the founding of this great nation of ours. I know I did. Got to spend the weekend with Mrs. Constitution and our little boy. It was a great time. I don't know where you guys live, but where I live, I just had a bunch of people around my neighborhood shooting off fireworks almost all night. And it was fantastic. I hope you all got to celebrate the foundation of this nation as we know it now in a fun and safe manner. And I hope you all didn't get into too much trouble. So, without further ado, we're going to be continuing our little series here on reading the Constitution, with the continuation in Article 1 of Section 3, where we will begin talking about the Senate. And so let's get going with Section 3, Article 1, Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Now, this was amended in a later amendment. We'll change that, but you'll notice here that the original membership of the Senate, originally as written by the framers, senators were not elected by the populace. Senators were appointed by state legislatures. So, under the original Constitution, the senators would have been selected by the legislative bodies of each state. So, for example, if you lived in Utah, your state senators would have been selected by the Utah legislature, not the voters of Utah. That was changed in one of the amendments that was ratified during the FDR administration. But before then, originally, senators were selected by the legislature. And so the beauty of this is that it gave the actual state governments a voice at the federal level, which is not what we have now. Now, pretty much all our representatives, both in the House and in the Senate at the federal level, are representatives at the people. And the state governments actually don't have any voice at the federal level, which has resulted in a lot of things that I don't think would have been a thing if the states actually had a voice at the federal level. So this is, of course, my commentary, but it just seems to me like things like unfunded mandates and various other things that the federal government has crammed down on the states would not have been a thing had the states had a voice at the federal level, had the state governments had a voice at the federal level. And that was kind of the point of the Senate, the point of our Constitution. A lot of people get really frustrated with Congress and how things kind of get bogged down and nothing really gets done. That's actually a feature of our system and not a bug. The whole point of our system is that things should not take effect. Laws should not be passed that don't have a broad acceptance. The purpose of our government, the purpose of our system of government is to force a consensus. Things don't actually happen unless a large part of the country feels like that it needs to. And some of the amendments later in the Constitution have kind of whittled away at that over time. And I think, in my opinion, especially the amendment where we changed and the senators are now elected by the people. But anyway, that's my own opinion. Take that for what it's worth as just the random guy on the internet that you listen to, and let's move on. So, immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into three classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the second year, the second class at the expiration of the fourth year, and the third class at the expiration of the sixth year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every second year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. So, what this clause of Section 3 is doing is establishing that 1/3 of the Senate will be elected every 2 years to a 6-year term. So that's why every 2 years you may or may not be voting for a senator. For example, so there are 100 senators now because there's 50 states and each state has 2. So roughly 33 senators every 2 years has to be reelected or face rejection by another person being elected. So every 2 years, senators are elected, but each senator serves a 6-year term. So if you're a senator from Maryland, you get elected, you serve for 6 years, but maybe the other senator from Maryland is probably not in the same class as you, and so you're elected that year, and then 2 years later, that senator will be elected again, or will have to run for election again, and have another 6 years. So you'll have 4 years left on your term by then, and they'll have another 6. So it kind of staggers and makes it so that the whole Senate isn't replaced every 6 years. Only 1/3 of the Senate is replaced every 2 years. That's what this clause is establishing. So, moving on. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. So, we had a very similar clause up in the previous section where we established the House of Representatives. So senators have to be 30 years old, not 25, compared to the House of Representatives. They have to be a citizen of the United States for 9 years instead of 7, but they still have to be an inhabitant of the state for which they represent. So if you're elected to represent the state of Mississippi, you have to live in Mississippi to be a senator. That's pretty much it. So pretty straightforward. Next clause. The Vice President of the United States shall be the President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. So this basically is establishing that the Vice President of the United States basically leads the Senate. As the President of the Senate, the Vice President can basically gets to kind of lead the Senate, has some power to choose what comes to the floor and what doesn't. That all kind of depends on how the Senate has organized itself. But the President of the Senate does have some power. But we don't really see the Vice President acting in this role very often anymore because of how Vice President and President are elected and chosen has changed. We'll get into that later when we get down to Article 2 when we start talking about the executive branch. But this basically just kind of sets out a role for the Vice President in the Senate. And that's about it. So he doesn't actually get a vote unless they're evenly split. So if there were 50 votes one way and 50 vote another, the vice president would cast the tie-breaking vote. So that's about it. So next, the Senate shall choose their officers and also a president pro tempore in the absence of the vice president, or when he shall exercise the office of president of the United States. So the Senate basically kind of gets to choose their officers. Who's the majority leader, who's the minority leader, the different roles of the Senate that people have in the Senate. All that gets to be chosen by the Senate itself, and they choose a president pro tempore, which is basically a temporary president of the Senate. This is the person who presides over the gatherings, over the when Senate is in session. The president pro tem is the person who bangs the gavel, brings things to order, dismisses, that kind of stuff. So when the vice president is either not in the session, the president pro tem presides, and if the vice president ever takes the office of president, then the president pro tem basically continues his role as officiating the Senate, as chairing the Senate session. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward and simple. Next clause: the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. So, what this means, we saw in Section 2, the House gets to actually initiate the impeachment process, but the Senate is where the impeachment trial is actually held. So impeachment means the removal from office. So if a federal official is needing to be removed from office, specifically an elected official is needing to be or appointed in the case of a judge, is needing to be impeached or removed from office, the House starts the proceedings, and the Senate actually holds the trial. So in the case of a president being impeached, as we saw most recently with Donald Trump, and before that, Bill Clinton, when the president is impeached and during his trial, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides over the proceedings. So it is important to note that impeachments are only for the removal from office. There are no criminal or civil liabilities being determined during this trial. If a president is found guilty in his impeachment trial, he will be removed from office and in some cases no longer allowed to hold office at all. But that's really up for, but that's all that is a removal from office. He doesn't get to that. That's not a criminal trial. He's not going to serve jail time. He's not going to be liable for civil penalties or fines. That's only for removal from office. So that is impeachment. Moving on. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office or honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to the law. So this is basically establishing what I just shared. So the judgment, so the penalty of impeachment, if you're found guilty, is the removal of office, and that's it. And disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. So you're impeached, you are out, you don't get in. You don't get back in. You can't be. You can't hold office again. But you can't. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to jail. You can, however, if you have committed a crime, you are still liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment. So you can still. So just because you've been impeached doesn't mean you can't be tried in a criminal court. But it doesn't mean that you have been tried in a criminal court. So you can't be. It's likely. I don't know if this has actually been tried or not. But I don't. So I don't know. I might have to look into that. That might be interesting. I don't know if your impeachment can actually be used against you in your criminal case. That'd be an interesting question for a lawyer. I'm curious. If you let me know if there's anyone out there and you know this answer, if this has been figured out, I'd love to know. I would imagine that it would because you're not. It's not like you're facing 2 criminal trials here. It's just an impeachment and then a criminal case. But I don't know. Things get weird. So anyway, that is Section 3 of Article 1, establishing the Senate. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on how the Senate is set up? It's pretty straightforward, I feel like. Not super complicated. Things get more complicated as the Senate kind of figured out how to organize itself and who gets what responsibilities and all of that stuff. But I think, but yeah, that's it. So we'll go ahead and leave it off there for now, and we'll pick up with Section 4 next time. And now for something completely different. An opinion piece from the wackos over at MSNBC. The nightmarish reality of the GOP's hope for a total abortion ban. Would Republicans really pursue a national abortion ban? Many advocates for abortion rights believe so. And the fear-mongering and the salt continues to flow. In this article from July 4th. Oh, wow. Written on July 4th. So, people have been really, really upset and worried about not being able to kill babies since the Supreme Court decided, you know what, that's not actually protected by the Constitution. And so, yeah, we'll just let's read this opinion piece and see how it goes by Zijan Alim, MSNBC opinion columnist. So who the heck knows who this guy is? All right. So the Supreme Court's elimination of the constitutional right to an abortion in America marked the shocking fulfillment of a decades-long laboring effort by the American anti-abortion movement and the GOP's agenda to radicalize the court to the point where it would overturn what appeared to be settled legal rights. But just hours after the decision came out, top Republicans already had their eye on something else. Dum, dum, dum. Okay, first of all, the elimination of a constitutional right to an abortion? No, that is not actually what happened here. What happened in this case is, in fact, the justices came down and decided, rightly so, by the way, that the judgment of Roe versus Wade was incorrect in establishing and in saying that there is a constitutional right to an abortion. So the latest ruling by the Supreme Court is actually affirming what the Constitution actually says, in that it says nothing about abortion, nothing about affirming a right or protecting the right to an abortion. So once again, we see a little, which we will see more as we go through the Constitution. We'll see that the Constitution does not say anything; it's completely silent about abortion. Anyway, so yeah, a little more fear mongering here. The day of the decision overturning Roe versus Wade came out, former Vice President Mike Pence, who, I'll give him this, is a bit of a tool bag, told far-right Breitbart News, having been given the second chance for life, we must not rest. We must not rest and must not relent until the sanctity of life is restored to the center of American law in every state in the land. In what seems like an opening salvo of a 2024 White House bid, his advisors have said that he plans on lobbying for a national abortion ban in the coming weeks. Who the heck knows? Like, really, like his advisors have said he plans. Okay, cool. So he plans on it. First of all, I think this would be stupid because, again, the Constitution is silent about abortion. The federal government is not given the right to regulate, is not given the power to regulate abortion in the Constitution. And so the federal government really has no power to regulate abortion nationwide. That was the purpose of That's the whole point of limiting the power of the federal government, letting states choose how they want to run things. This is how we stay together as a union, by letting each state run its own course, each state doing its own thing, so that the people of the state can decide how they want to live, and the people of another state can choose how they want to live, and they don't have to interact with each other. They don't have to overrule each other. And if you don't like what your state does, you can either fight to change it, which is a lot easier. It's a lot easier to change the course of a state than it is to change the course of the entire nation. But if you don't like what your state does, you can either change it or you can move to another state that you like better. That is the way our system is designed. And this way we can stay together as a nation, but still have our own, still have a way of doing things that we prefer, instead of having it forced down our throats by tyrants in Washington, D.C. These people just don't get how our Constitution is supposed to work. Pence is not an outlier. A number of top Republicans in Congress, including House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, are supporting the idea of a nationwide abortion ban after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Today, blah, blah, blah. Who freaking cares? Look, I get that killing babies is really important to you. I don't get why it is. I don't get why you want to do this. But I get that killing babies is important to you. But can we not? Oh, man. First of all, if it happens, it's not going to happen anytime soon. The Democrats still control the House, still have a good hold in the Senate. The Democrat, it's not going to happen for at least you got at least 2 years. Okay. We got 2 years. We got the midterms this year. The Republicans, it's going to be a bloodbath, guys. Democrats, if you're out there, just hold on to your butts and hang in there, because you're going to be taking a lot of L's in November. So just hold on. You can do it. Just get through it. And then you got 2 years still where good old Joe can, whoever's, handling him, can make sure he's vetoing things. So don't worry. You got 2 years before this happens. And if the court is consistent, any nationwide abortion ban should be overturned, because it's not constitutional. I'll stick with it. I am pro-life. I don't believe that you should be killing babies. But I also don't. But two things can be true at once: that you shouldn't kill babies, and that the federal government does not have the power to regulate abortion. These are true facts, people. So if you're pro-choice, work to change your state or move to a state that you prefer. That's what it should be. So would Republicans really pursue this? Many advocates for abortion rights believe so. If Republicans have control of the House and Senate and the presidency, I have no doubt that they will attempt to and likely will pass a national abortion ban. Dana Sussman, acting executive director of the National Advocates for Pregnant Women, told me. Okay, let's just take a step back here and think about this, okay? of the two parties, which do you think is the most likely to go all out on a perceived mandate? The Republicans, who, when they had complete control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, couldn't get an overturn of the Affordable Care Act done. Or the Democrats, who have literally done everything they have wanted to do since being in power. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency, and they have literally done everything they have wanted to do. So guess what, Democrats? The Republicans should do this. I don't think they should do it with abortion, but they should be forcing through everything they can get, because this is how the game is played now. Apparently, this is how we as a nation have decided we're going to do things now. We're going to do wild swings from one end to the other because we can't fucking just take a break. We can't actually listen to the other side and think, well, maybe our plan, maybe we could receive a little criticism. No, we're going to force through. We're going to shut down pipelines. We're going to create inflation. We're going to spend all kinds of money. We're just going to go because we think this is what we need to do. And we're not going to listen to the other side. We're not going to listen to the minority. Our system of government was initially created to help us build consensus so that broad acceptance of policies was required before they could be enacted. And now, because the Democrats have been working towards this, Republicans too, to a lesser extent, but now we've been working to move ourselves closer and closer to a democracy, and that is nothing short of mob rule. Democracies are just as destructive, if not more so, than communism. Because all you need is 51% of a population to oppress and destroy the other 49%. In a democracy, that is how it works. And that is not what our founders designed when they created the Constitution. That is not what our founders had in mind for our nation. Democracy destroys civilizations just as quickly as communism does. So let's take a step back. Let's move back and start operating within the bounds of the Constitution again. And let's get back to normalcy in our government. I don't want to read the rest of this. It's just infuriating. Anyway, if you like what you heard here, share with a friend, hit that like, comment below, hit that notification bell so you can get notifications when new videos come out. I try to do one every day, except on Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. Go out there, have a great day, everyone, and try to look at each other as people.